School taught you how to memorize facts, but not how to navigate life. We spent years learning about external subjects, yet the most important curriculum, the one for our inner world, was entirely absent. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the essence of Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that hands you the missing manual for a resilient and meaningful existence. By the end of this, you will possess a new mental toolkit for unshakable peace and profound personal agency. We will explore the principles that govern your mindset, your emotional responses, and your capacity to take control of your life. How many of your current struggles stem from a lesson you were never taught? This single idea forms the bedrock of Stoic wisdom. It is called the Dichotomy of Control, and it is the first and most vital tool for finding peace. The principle is disarmingly simple. Some things are within our power and others are not. Our own judgments, our impulses, our desires, and our actions, these are ours to command. Everything else, from the weather to the traffic, from our reputation to the actions of other people, falls outside that fortress of control. The Stoic teacher Epictetus began his entire manual for life with this very point, stating that our chief task is to distinguish between what is ours and what is not. Think about the last time you were stuck in an unmoving line of cars, late for an important meeting. Your anger, your frustration, your frantic checking of the clock, none of that moves the traffic. The traffic is an external event. It is not within your power, but your reaction to the traffic, your decision to use that time to listen to an audiobook or simply take a quiet moment for yourself, that is entirely yours to command. The suffering comes from fighting a battle you cannot win, from trying to control the uncontrollable. So ask yourself right now, what is one thing you are currently worrying about that is ultimately not up to you? Just identifying it begins to loosen its grip. This love of fate is the ultimate embrace of reality. It asks you not to tolerate what happens, but to love it, to see every event, especially the difficult ones, as necessary and even beneficial for your journey. The Stoics called this Amor Fati, a profound love for one's own fate. Centuries later, the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche would champion this very idea, declaring that his formula for human greatness was to have no wish for anything to be different, not in the future, not in the past, not for all eternity. This is the radical shift from seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance to becoming the hero of your own story, no matter the plot. Marcus Aurelius put it with stunning clarity when he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." An obstacle is not a roadblock, it is the road itself. Imagine a career setback, a project that fails, or a job that is lost. The conventional reaction is frustration and despair, a sense of being set back. But through the lens of Amor Fati, this event is not a derailment. It is a forceful redirection. It is the universe closing a door you may have been too hesitant to leave, pushing you toward a new path, a new skill, or a new opportunity you could not have seen from your old position. That closed door did not take something away from you. It cleared the space for what is truly meant for you to arrive. So look back at a recent difficulty in your own life. How could this seeming misfortune be a hidden blessing in disguise? What strength did it force you to discover? What new direction did it make possible? Loving your fate is the final surrender to the wisdom that life is not happening to you, but for you. This practice of loving your fate leads directly to one of the most powerful and misunderstood tools in the Stoic arsenal. Premeditatio Malorum is the premeditation of evils, a disciplined rehearsal of potential hardship. It is not about expecting the worst to happen, but about removing the worst of its sting by making it familiar to the mind. The great Stoic thinker Seneca actively practiced this. He would set aside time to vividly imagine the loss of his wealth, his status, even his own health. He did not do this to wallow in fear, but to arrive at a profound realization. By mentally walking through the scenario of being exiled or impoverished, he saw that he would still be himself. His character, his reason, his inner freedom, these could not be taken by any external event. He wrote that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality, and by confronting these imagined futures, we disarm them. Think about a difficult conversation you know you need to have. Perhaps it is with a coworker about a shared project, or a family member about a lingering issue. Your anxiety builds as you play out the worst-case scenarios in your head, the anger, the rejection, the conflict. Now, instead of letting that anxiety run wild, you sit down and systematically premeditate it. You visualize the other person becoming upset. You hear the harsh words they might say. You feel the heat of your own initial reaction. And then, you visualize yourself responding not with defensiveness, but with calm clarity. You see yourself listening, acknowledging their perspective, and firmly stating your own. By mentally rehearsing the challenge, you are not inviting it. You are building a neural pathway of composure so that if the moment arrives, you are not caught by surprise. You have already walked this ground. Your emotional response is tempered because the event is no longer a terrifying unknown, but a situation you have already navigated in the safety of your own mind. What is one future challenge, large or small, that you can prepare for in this way today? Simply by giving it deliberate thought, you begin the work of building your resilience in advance. We build our lives around the pursuit of things we are told will make us happy. A bigger salary, a more impressive title, a comfortable and secure existence. But the Stoics presented a radical challenge to this entire framework. They declared that only one thing is truly good, and only one thing is truly bad. The good is a life lived with moral excellence, with virtue. The bad is a life of vice, of moral failure. Everything else, all the things we spend our energy chasing or avoiding, are merely preferred or dispreferred indifference. They have no true power to make us good or bad people. The Roman teacher Musonius Rufus put it plainly when he said, "Virtue is not only more valuable than money, but more valuable than life itself." To the modern ear, this sounds almost absurd. How can a comfortable life be indifferent? The Stoic answer is not that these things are worthless, but that their value is entirely conditional. They are tools. Wealth is a tool that can be used charitably or selfishly. Fame is a platform that can spread wisdom or vanity. Health is a resource that can be used to help others or to indulge oneself. The tool itself is neutral. Its moral weight comes only from the character of the person wielding it. This is why they are called indifference. They do not affect your core self, your moral worth. You can be a person of profound integrity while being poor, sick, and unknown. You can be a person of deep vice while being rich, healthy, and celebrated. The goal, then, is not to reject these external things, but to pursue them without making them the source of your happiness or self-worth. Prefer to have health, but do not depend on it for your peace. Prefer to have wealth, but do not see it as your salvation. Your inner citadel is built on something far more durable. Consider the historical figure of Cato the Younger. In the final days of the Roman Republic, he stood almost alone against the rising tyranny of Julius Caesar. He chose to fight for the republic he believed in, even when he knew the cause was likely lost. When Caesar ultimately prevailed, Cato chose to take his own life rather than live under a dictator's rule. His contemporaries were baffled. He had wealth, status, and the opportunity to live a comfortable life in the new regime. Yet he chose death because to live without his integrity, to compromise his virtue, was a far worse fate. His choice was not about the indifference of life or death, but about the supreme good of acting with courage and justice until the very end. When have you faced a moment, large or small, where you had to choose between what was convenient and what was right? Perhaps it was returning excess change to a cashier, or admitting a mistake at work that could have been easily hidden. In that moment, you were not weighing an indifferent, you were touching the soul good. That choice to act with honesty or courage is the only thing that truly enriches your character, regardless of the external outcome. It is the one possession that can never be taken from you. Your entire world, with all its pressing worries and urgent demands, is a single speck in an incomprehensibly vast cosmos. The Stoics had a powerful mental exercise to cultivate this perspective, known as the view from above. Marcus Aurelius would constantly remind himself to look at things from this higher vantage point, to see the brief, fleeting nature of human life against the backdrop of eternity and the immense scale of the universe. He wrote of how the entire Earth is but a point in space, and our longest life just a fraction of a second in the grand sweep of time. This is not meant to make you feel insignificant, but to grant you a profound sense of liberation. Close your eyes for just a moment and picture this. You are floating high above your own city. The buildings shrink to the size of children's toys. The cars become tiny ants moving in slow, deliberate lines. You rise higher until your continent is a shape on a globe, and then the planet itself is a beautiful, swirling blue marble hanging in the utter silence of space. All the noise, all the conflict, all the stress of your daily life is contained on that one small sphere. Now, bring your attention to the one specific problem that feels so heavy and overwhelming to you today. Hold it in your mind, and then, from this cosmic vantage point, ask yourself, how much does this truly matter? The argument you had, the project that is behind schedule, the criticism you received, how does its weight change when measured against the silent march of galaxies? This exercise does not dismiss your struggles, it contextualizes them. It drains the drama and the panic from situations, leaving only the essential facts for you to address with calm clarity. That looming deadline loses its power to create sleepless nights. A personal slight ceases to feel like a world-ending event. You return to your life grounded not in anxiety, but in a quiet understanding of your true place in the order of things. What current challenge of yours seems to shrink when you grant it this cosmic perspective? Death is the one appointment we all must keep. Far from a morbid fixation, this simple fact is a profound tool for crafting a life of urgency, gratitude, and unwavering focus. The Stoics called this practice Memento Mori, a reminder that you must die. Seneca wrote with piercing clarity, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Life is long if you know how to use it. This remembrance is not a threat, it is an invitation to wake up. It strips away the trivial and forces you to confront what is essential. In ancient Rome, during the lavish spectacle of a military triumph, a slave would stand behind the conquering general as he paraded through the cheering crowds. The slave's sole duty was to whisper into the general's ear, "Respice post te, hominum te es memento." Look behind you, remember you are a man, remember that you are mortal. Amidst the peak of his glory, at the moment of his greatest power and public adoration, he was reminded of his own inevitable end. This was not to spoil his celebration, but to ground him in reality, to ensure his head did not float away with the clouds of his own success. The reminder of death is that servant for your own mind. It cuts through the noise of daily distractions, the petty grievances, the endless pursuit of more. It asks you the most important question you will ever answer. If you knew for certain that you had just 1 year left to live, what would you stop doing immediately? The meetings that feel meaningless, the hours lost to scrolling, the grudges you carry, the conversations you avoid, the passion project you keep putting off for a someday that is not guaranteed. All of it falls away, revealing the core of what truly matters to you. This is the power of Memento Mori. It does not ask you to live in fear, but to live with intention. It makes every ordinary moment precious because it is finite. That cup of coffee in the morning, the walk with a loved one, the work that gives you purpose, these are not small things when seen through the lens of your mortality. They are the substance of a life well lived. The clock is ticking for all of us. The question is not how much time you have, but what you will do with the time you are given. Yet we often move through our days feeling utterly alone in a crowded world. This sense of isolation is a modern epidemic, but the Stoics offered a powerful antidote 2,000 years ago. They called it Sympatheia, the profound understanding that every person and everything is woven into a single, living cosmos. You are not a solitary island, but a vital thread in a vast, interconnected tapestry. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of this, writing, "We are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of upper and lower teeth." To act against one another, then, is contrary to nature. Your very existence is built for connection. When you feel frustration bubbling up towards the slow-moving cashier or irritation at the driver who cut you off, Sympatheia asks you to pause and see the whole picture. That cashier may be exhausted from a double shift worrying about a sick child. That driver might be rushing to an emergency, their mind clouded by panic. This is not about making excuses for poor behavior, but about recognizing a shared human fallibility. You too have been the source of someone else's frustration on a bad day. This perspective transforms your duty from one of mere self-interest to one of global citizenship. You begin to see that an act of kindness towards a stranger is not a small thing. It is a reaffirmation of the cosmic bond you share, holding a door, offering a genuine compliment, or simply making eye contact and smiling. These are the practical rituals of Sympatheia. They are how you honor the invisible threads that connect you to every other person. So as you move through your day, ask yourself this one question. How can you act today as a citizen of the world, not just your own small circle? Our greatest suffering does not arise from the events that happen to us, but from the stories we tell ourselves about them. This is the core of the Stoic practice of objective judgment. The philosopher Epictetus, a former slave who understood true hardship, put it with stunning simplicity. He said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." The sound of a critical comment is just vibrations in the air. A flat tire is just a piece of rubber without air. It is your judgment, the label you slap onto that event, that gives it the power to wound you or ruin your day. The practice, then, is to strip away the layer of opinion and see the thing for what it is, in its raw, neutral state. Imagine a coworker passes you in the hallway without saying hello. The immediate, automatic judgment might be, "They are ignoring me. They must be angry with me. I must have done something wrong." This narrative instantly creates a knot of anxiety in your stomach. Now, apply objective judgment. Strip away the story. What are the bare facts? Your coworker walked past you without making eye contact. That is all. Perhaps they are preoccupied with a looming deadline. Maybe they just received bad news and are lost in their own thoughts. It is even possible they simply did not see you. The event itself is neutral. Your peace of mind was not stolen by their action, but surrendered by your interpretation of it. This is not about suppressing your feelings, but about questioning the thoughts that create them. By pausing to separate the objective fact from your subjective judgment, you reclaim the power you gave away. You move from being a passive victim of your thoughts to an active observer of them. Identify one situation from your recent past where changing your judgment about it would have completely altered your emotional response. That argument, that piece of negative feedback, that unexpected change of plans, what was the bare fact and what was the story you layered on top of it? Seeing this distinction is the first step toward an unshakable peace that no external event can disrupt. That inner peace you just reclaimed is the architecture of your own inner citadel. The Stoics envisioned a fortress within your own mind, a stronghold of reason and character that no external chaos can ever breach. Marcus Aurelius wrote of retiring into this little citadel of the mind, a place of perfect quiet, ready to hold its own against any assault. It is not built of stone or steel, but of your own disciplined judgment and unwavering principles. This is not about shutting out the world, but about creating a sanctuary so secure that you can engage with the world fully, without fear of being shattered by its turbulence. Think of the last time you witnessed a social media firestorm, a public figure being torn apart by a wave of online outrage. The attacks are relentless and personal. Now imagine that person possesses a true inner citadel. The insults and accusations still fly, but they crash against the walls of a self that knows its own worth. They do not get to decide who this person is. The inner citadel remains calm, observing the storm without being consumed by it. The individual can respond or not respond from a place of deliberate choice, not reactive panic. Their peace is not dependent on public opinion because it is rooted in something far deeper. Your own inner fortress is strengthened every time you pause before reacting, every time you choose reason over raw emotion, every time you act from your core values instead of external pressure. And what weakens it, the opposite. Every time you outsource your self-worth to a like button, every time you let a critical comment dictate your entire mood, you are leaving the gates unguarded. So ask yourself this: what is one daily practice that reinforces your inner walls? Is it a few minutes of quiet reflection each morning, a conscious decision to limit your consumption of digital outrage, or a simple commitment to acting with integrity in a small, unseen task? Your inner citadel is your ultimate refuge, and its maintenance is the most important work you will ever do. Our culture is obsessed with the pursuit of comfort, yet this very quest is making us fragile. The Stoics proposed a radical countermeasure, a form of mental and physical training known as voluntary discomfort. The philosopher Musonius Rufus taught that to practice hardship was essential, comparing it to a soldier who trains in peacetime so he is ready for war. By willingly embracing small, manageable doses of difficulty, you immunize yourself against the shock and self-pity that real adversity can bring. This is not about punishing yourself, but about building a reservoir of strength you can draw from when life inevitably gets hard. Think of a CEO who, despite their wealth and status, chooses to sleep on a simple mat on the floor one night a week. This is not an act of self-denial, but a deliberate practice. It is a tangible reminder that their well-being is not dependent on a luxury mattress, that they can find rest and peace even in Spartan conditions. It keeps them grounded, preventing the softness of success from weakening their core resilience. The cold shower you dread taking, the meal you skip to feel genuine hunger, the walk you take in the rain instead of staying indoors, these are all small drills for the soul. Each one is a vote for your own fortitude. They teach you that discomfort is temporary and survivable, and in doing so, they forge a deep, abiding gratitude for the ordinary comforts you usually take for granted. That warm bed feels profoundly different after you have chosen to leave it for a night on a harder surface. So ask yourself this simple question: What small comfort can you voluntarily give up this week to build your resilience? Your inner citadel is built on principles known only to you, but how you act on them defines your character. The world often rewards performance, the grand gesture made for an audience, but Stoicism draws a sharp line between this theater and true moral action. Epictetus, who cared nothing for fame or status, gave a simple instruction: do not seek for everything to happen as you wish, but wish for everything to happen as it does, and your life will be serene. The deepest form of this wish is to act rightly for the sake of the action itself, not for the applause that may or may not follow. He warned that a person who craves the spotlight is no longer their own person, but becomes a slave to the opinions of the crowd. Your integrity is measured in the dark when no one is there to see it. Imagine the act of giving. You can donate a large sum of money to a charity and receive a public plaque, your name engraved for all to see. There is nothing wrong with this, but now imagine slipping a $20 bill into the hand of a struggling stranger on a cold night, then walking away without a word, knowing you will never see them again, and no one will ever know what you did. That action exists in a purer state. It is not a transaction for social credit or a warm feeling of pride. It is justice in motion, a simple realignment of the scales because it was possible for you to do so. The same principle applies to your daily work. You can complete a project with one eye on your manager's approval, tailoring your effort to what you believe will be most visible and praiseworthy. Or you can do the work to the best of your ability because that is the standard you have set for yourself, regardless of who notices. The quality of your character is expressed in that choice. When was the last time you did something good solely because it was the right thing to do? Not for a thank you, not for a promotion, not even for a pat on your own back, but because the action itself was its own reward. That is the sound of a door closing in your inner citadel, a declaration that your moral compass points true north, even when you are the only one in the room. That fortress of character is built in quiet. The modern world is a roaring ocean of noise, a constant barrage of notifications, opinions, and chatter that leaves little room for your own thoughts. The Stoics saw profound strength not in adding to this noise, but in the disciplined practice of withholding from it. This is the principle of strategic silence, a conscious choice to listen more, speak less, and filter the words you do release into the world. The Roman philosopher Seneca wrote extensively about this in his letters, observing how much trouble we bring upon ourselves by our own tongues. He advised seeking out quiet spaces for reflection, stating that the mind requires peace and seclusion if it is to gather itself and find its true strength. This is not about becoming a recluse, but about creating pockets of stillness in a noisy life so that you can hear the quiet voice of your own reason. Think of the last time you were drawn into a conversation filled with gossip or complaint. The words flowed easily, feeding a sense of shared frustration or judgment. But after you walked away, how did you feel? Energized and clear, or subtly drained and agitated? Unnecessary speech, especially that which is critical or trivial, scatters your mental energy. It pulls you out of your inner citadel and into the turbulent drama of externals. Strategic silence is the act of closing the gate. It is choosing to listen not just to the words of others, but to the meaning behind them. It is pausing before you speak to ask a simple but powerful question. Is what I am about to say true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Imagine a practical challenge for just a single day. Commit to going several hours without any speech that is not absolutely essential. No offering unsolicited opinions, no complaining about the weather, no idle gossip. Simply listen. In that forced quiet, you will notice two things. First, how much of your usual speech is automatic and reactive, serving no real purpose. And second, you will begin to hear the world with a new depth. You might pick up on the subtle worry in a colleague's voice that you normally would have talked over. You might notice the simple beauty of sounds you usually ignore. What could you learn about the people around you and about the workings of your own mind if you spent a day listening twice as much as you spoke? This silence is not empty. It is the fertile ground where clarity grows. The architecture of your character is not built by the events you encounter, but by the judgments you cement around them. Over time, these repeated opinions do not just describe your reality, they actively construct the person you become. Marcus Aurelius captured this profound truth when he wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Your mind is not a passive mirror reflecting the world. It is an artist, constantly painting the portrait of yourself and your life with every brushstroke of judgment. Think of a simple, repeated thought you might have about your own capabilities. Perhaps you tell yourself, "I am not a creative person," or "I am terrible with numbers." This is not a neutral observation. It is a verdict you deliver to yourself, and with each repetition, the color deepens. You begin to turn down opportunities that require creativity. You shy away from tasks involving math, not because of a fixed reality, but because the story you have told yourself has become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your identity begins to conform to the judgment you have practiced most often. This is how character is forged, not in grand, single moments of decision, but in the quiet, daily rehearsal of your own internal narratives. The judgment that a challenge is an insurmountable threat builds a fragile, fearful soul. The judgment that the same challenge is a test of resourcefulness builds a resilient and capable one. The raw material of your life remains the same, but the finished product is entirely different based on the color of your thoughts. So look inward and identify one long-held judgment about yourself that has limited your growth. Is it the story that you are not a leader, that you are too anxious to speak up, or that you are simply not the kind of person who succeeds? Now, consider the possibility of repainting that single part of the portrait. What new, more accurate, and more empowering judgment could you choose to adopt in its place? This is not about positive thinking, but about truthful thinking, about selecting a judgment that serves your growth rather than confirming your fears. The power to recolor your soul rests entirely in your hands. The art of acquiescence is the final surrender to what is already true. This is not a passive defeat, but a conscious decision to stop arguing with reality. Your suffering ignites not from the event itself, but from the internal battle against its existence. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offered a simple but profound shift in mindset when he taught, "Do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do, and your life will be serene." This is the essence of wise acceptance. It is the act of aligning your will with the unfolding of the world, so you can navigate it with clarity rather than resistance. Imagine your carefully planned day is upended by a cancelled flight. The reality is that you are now at the airport for several more hours. The common reaction is to fume, to complain to airline staff, to mentally list all the things you are now missing. This is the fight. It expends all your energy on a fact that cannot be changed. The flight is cancelled. That is the unalterable truth. Acquiescence looks different. It is the deep breath you take after receiving the news. It is the internal shift from, "This should not be happening," to, "This is happening. What can I do with it?" In that acceptance, a space for action opens. You find a quiet corner and finally read that book you have been carrying. You call a friend you have been meaning to catch up with. You use the time to plan your next steps with a calm mind. The situation did not change, but your relationship to it transformed entirely. What reality are you currently resisting that you could simply accept? Is it a difficult person you must interact with, a health diagnosis you received, or a project at work that is not going as planned? The moment you stop fighting its existence is the moment you reclaim the power to move forward within it. Anxiety is a debt you pay to a future that may never come due, while regret is a tax on a past you can no longer amend. Both are forms of suffering that exist only in the mind, drawing your energy away from the one moment you can actually influence, the eternal now. Seneca, in his timeless wisdom, cut to the heart of the matter when he wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." We squander our lives not in grand, dramatic ways, but in these quiet thefts of attention, as our minds drift from the task before us to phantom troubles yet to be. The Stoic practice is to reclaim that attention, to gather your scattered focus and pour it entirely into the present action. This is not a call to mindfulness for its own sake, but a practical strategy for effectiveness and peace. The work project on your desk, the conversation with your child, the meal you are eating, these are the arenas of your life. When you are physically present but mentally absent, you are missing your own existence. Choose one single task you need to accomplish today. It could be writing a report, cleaning a room, or preparing a presentation. Now, for the next hour, make a pact with yourself to do nothing else. Silence the phone notifications, close the extra browser tabs, and bring your whole mind to bear on this one activity. Notice the temptation to check your email, to let your thoughts drift to a meeting later this afternoon, to get up for a snack. Each time you gently guide your focus back, you are performing a repetition for the soul. You are building the muscle of presence. The quality of your work will deepen, and a strange calm will settle over you because you are no longer fractured between 3 different times at once. For the next hour, can you devote your full attention solely to what you are doing? The ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus gave us a statement so profound the Stoics adopted it as their own. Character is fate. This is not a poetic suggestion, but a declaration of cause and effect. Your internal landscape of virtues and vices does not just influence your life, it actively scripts its final outcome, far more than any external luck or circumstance ever could. A life of courage, justice, and self-discipline cannot help but carve a different path through the world than one governed by fear, greed, and deceit. The external events may be the same, but the destination is entirely different. Consider the historical arc of a Roman emperor like Nero. He was born into absolute power, inheriting the wealth and might of an empire. His external circumstances were the most favorable imaginable, yet his character, his paranoia, his cruelty, and his vanity steered that immense power straight toward disaster. He sabotaged political alliances, executed capable advisors out of suspicion, and squandered the treasury on his own lavish spectacles. His fate was not sealed by an invading army or a sudden plague, but by the rotten core of his own soul. The empire he was given, he broke from the inside out. Marcus Aurelius, ruling from that same position of supreme power, understood this truth intimately. He wrote in his meditations, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." His entire reign was a daily meditation on building the character necessary to bear the weight of his station without being corrupted by it. He knew that the fate of Rome itself was tied to the integrity of its leader. Your own life, on a smaller scale, operates by the same immutable law. The minor daily choices that seem insignificant, the small acts of dishonesty, the moments of cowardice you justify, the patience you fail to exercise, these are not isolated incidents. They are the bricks with which you are constructing your destiny. Each one reinforces a pattern until that pattern becomes a road you cannot easily leave. So look inward with honest eyes. What single trait, if you strengthened it today, would most improve your life's trajectory? Is it the courage to have that difficult conversation you have been avoiding? Is it the discipline to finally master your finances? Is it the patience to listen more and react less? Your character is not a fixed statue, but a living garden. What you choose to cultivate there determines everything that will ever grow. Your deepest desires are the architects of your suffering or your salvation. The Stoics drew a critical line between the natural, biological wants of the human animal and the insatiable, manufactured cravings of the social self. A natural desire is for nourishment when you are hungry, for rest when you are tired. An unhealthy attachment is the burning need for a specific gourmet meal, for a particular brand of mattress, or most dangerously, for the approval and admiration of other people. Epictetus, who began his life as a slave, understood this distinction at the most fundamental level. He taught that the chief task in life is to secure your own desires and aversions, ensuring they are directed only at what is within your power. He said that freedom is not achieved by satisfying desire, but by destroying it. This sounds harsh, but he meant the destruction of the endless, restless wanting for externals. Your desire for recognition is a perfect example. You work diligently on a project, and part of you hopes for a promotion, for public praise, for your name to be celebrated. This desire is a trap. The promotion depends on your boss's mood, the company's budget, office politics, factors entirely outside your control. When the recognition does not come, you are crushed. Your peace is held hostage by a result you cannot command. Now shift the object of your desire. Instead of desiring recognition, you desire only to do good work. You desire to be thorough, creative, and diligent. You desire to act with integrity and focus. This desire is entirely within your power. No one can stop you from fulfilling it. You can be passed over for promotion, publicly ignored, and yet you can still achieve the very thing you set out to do. The satisfaction is immediate and self-generated. It cannot be taken from you. The discipline of desire is this constant realignment, pulling your wants back from the uncertain world of outcomes and anchoring them firmly in the guaranteed world of your own choices and efforts. It is the difference between a sailor who desperately desires a specific wind and one who desires only to skillfully adjust his sails to any wind that blows. One is perpetually frustrated, the other is perpetually empowered. So what is one desire you have that, if you simply let it go, would bring you an immediate and profound sense of peace? Is it the desire for a certain person to treat you differently? The desire for a rival to fail? The desire for a level of wealth that always seems just out of reach? Identifying it is the first step in severing its chains. Your actions are the final, tangible expression of everything you have built within. Right judgment clarifies the path, and disciplined desire fuels your steps, but it is in the doing that your character truly meets the world. This is the discipline of action, the commitment to act for the common welfare with unwavering justice and kindness, regardless of the reward or consequence that may follow. Marcus Aurelius offered a beautifully simple directive for this very practice. He wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil, but I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own. So none of them can hurt me, no one can implicate me in ugliness, nor can I feel angry at my relative or hate him. We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes, like the two rows of teeth, upper and lower. To obstruct each other is unnatural. To feel anger at someone, to turn your back on him, these are obstructions." His instruction is not to withdraw, but to engage with profound understanding, to do the next right thing with kindness precisely because others may not. Imagine a colleague at work is struggling with a complex report, the same colleague who rarely acknowledges your help and often takes credit for shared successes. The undisciplined action, governed by a desire for recognition or fairness, would be to let them flounder. They do not deserve your effort, but the Stoic action asks a different question. What serves the common good? A completed, accurate report benefits the entire team, the project, and the company's mission. Your action, to quietly sit down with them and offer your expertise without any expectation of thanks or returned favor, becomes a pure expression of justice. You are not doing it for them, you are doing it because it is the right thing to do for the whole. The action itself is its own complete reward. Your integrity remains untarnished by their ingratitude, and your inner citadel grows stronger. What is one small, kind action you can take today that serves the common good? An act you can perform solely for the satisfaction of having done what is right. Every barrier you face holds a hidden lever for growth. This principle transforms the very nature of a problem, turning it from a roadblock into the raw material for building your strength, your creativity, and your character. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius captured this radical idea with stunning precision when he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The obstacle is not something to be endured but to be actively used. It is the whetstone that sharpens your blade. Think of a modern entrepreneur whose first business venture ends in failure. The company runs out of funding, the product fails to find a market, and the doors close. The conventional view sees this as a defeat, a setback that wastes time and resources. But the Stoic view turns this obstacle upside down. The failure was not a waste, it was a rigorous, real-world education. It taught lessons no business school ever could about cash flow, customer psychology, and personal resilience. The network of contacts made during the struggle, the specific skills learned in the frantic effort to save the company, these become the very tools used to launch the next, more successful venture. The failure was not the end of the road, it was the difficult, unmarked path that led to a better destination. The obstacle itself provided the training and the insight necessary to move forward with greater wisdom. So look at the barrier directly in front of you right now. It might be a difficult personal relationship, a financial strain, or a professional rejection. How can you flip it over and use it? What muscle of character is this situation forcing you to develop? Is it patience, courage, or perhaps a new level of creativity? The obstacle is not in your way, it is the way. What current frustration can you begin to see not as a problem to solve, but as a tool to wield? A tree does not struggle to become a river, nor does a fish strive to climb a mountain. Each flourishes by fulfilling its own inherent design. This is the profound simplicity behind the Stoic command to live according to nature. For the Stoics, nature was not simply forests and streams, but the rational, interconnected order of the entire cosmos, a system of which you are an inseparable part. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, taught that our supreme goal is to live in agreement with nature, which means to live rationally and virtuously. Your nature as a human is not to act on blind impulse or selfish desire, but to employ your gift of reason to understand your place in the world and to act for the common good. This is the very essence of virtue. To live against your nature is to be like a lion trying to live on grass, a constant, exhausting fight against your own design. Imagine a brilliant engineer who is deeply unhappy in their corporate job. They are skilled, yes, but their work feels hollow, a series of spreadsheets that serve only to increase profit margins they do not believe in. They are acting against their rational nature. Their reason tells them their talents could be building bridges that connect communities or designing systems that provide clean water. Their social nature feels the absence of a meaningful contribution to the human family. The frustration they feel is not a sign of failure, but a signal from their own soul, a quiet insistence that they are out of alignment with their purpose. Living according to nature is the realignment. It is the engineer who finds a way to pivot their career toward humanitarian work, where their reason is fully engaged in solving problems for the common welfare. Their unique skills become their branch on the great cosmic tree, no longer withering but finally bearing fruit. So ask yourself this and be honest with the answer. In what area of your life are you acting against your own rational nature? Is it in a relationship where you compromise your core values for the sake of peace? Is it in a job that asks you to be less than you are? That ache of dissonance is your guide, pointing you back toward the person you were built to be. True freedom is found not in what you own, but in your ability to walk away from it all. This is the spirit of practicing poverty, a temporary and deliberate exercise in simplicity designed to sever your attachments to external comforts. The Roman philosopher Seneca championed this very idea, urging his readers to set aside a certain number of days each month to live with the plainest food and the coarsest dress. He wrote, "We must learn to want poverty again, not because poverty is desirable, but so that we may never come to fear it. This practice is not about deprivation for its own sake. It is a fire drill for the soul, a controlled burn that clears away the undergrowth of dependency and reveals the sturdy, unshakable ground of your own resilience. It shows you what you truly need, which is almost always far less than you think. Consider a voluntary digital detox for a full weekend. You power down the laptop, silence the phone, and place them in a drawer. The initial anxiety is palpable, a phantom limb sensation for the constant stream of notifications and entertainment. But as the hours pass, a quiet settles in. You notice the quality of the light in the room. You pick up a physical book and become absorbed in its pages. You have a long, uninterrupted conversation with a family member, listening not just to their words but to the cadence of their voice. The detox did not take anything of value from you. It returned your attention to you. The same principle applies to a no-spend weekend, where you commit to purchasing nothing beyond absolute necessities. You cook meals from the food already in your pantry. You take walks in a public park instead of going to a paid event. You rediscover the simple, costless pleasures that your normal spending habits had crowded out. You are not practicing being poor. You are practicing being free from the tyranny of wanting more. So ask yourself this one question with complete honesty. What possession or comfort do you believe you simply could not live without? Is it your morning coffee from a specific cafe, your curated streaming services, or the constant companionship of your phone? Now, what would truly happen if you voluntarily gave it up for just 48 hours? The answer you find may surprise you, revealing not a loss, but a profound gain in space, clarity, and self-reliance. This eternal now is not just your personal experience, it is the universal stage upon which every human life has ever played out. The same sun that warms your skin today touched the faces of Roman senators and medieval farmers. The same fundamental hopes and fears that stir your heart have echoed in the chests of countless souls across the centuries. Marcus Aurelius often meditated on this profound connection, reminding himself to think of the entire court of Emperor Hadrian, and then of any court in any era. He would note how all those people with their ambitions and dramas are now dust and tales. He saw the vast procession of humanity, a river of lives all flowing through the same essential moments of love, loss, ambition, and peace. Your specific circumstances are unique, but the core challenges you face are ancient and universal. The anxiety before a major life decision, the grief of a personal loss, the struggle for respect, the search for meaning, these are not modern inventions. They are the timeless themes of the human condition. A young parent in ancient Athens, fretting over how to provide for their family, felt the same visceral weight you might feel looking at your monthly bills. A poet in Renaissance Italy, wrestling with a creative block, battled the same inner critic that whispers in your ear when you sit down to create. Recognizing this shared journey does not diminish your personal struggle, it ennobles it. You are not alone in your suffering or your striving. You are participating in a story that has been unfolding for millennia, a story of resilience and discovery. Your current challenge, however isolating it may feel, is a chapter in that grand collective narrative. How does remembering that your struggles are part of the universal human experience change how you feel about them? That tight knot of anxiety in your stomach begins to loosen when you see it not as a singular flaw, but as a thread in a vast, interconnected tapestry. Your personal burden feels lighter when you realize you are carrying it with the strength of all who have come before you. This relentless march of humanity is a grand spectacle, but your own role in it is forged in the quiet moments of honest self-assessment. The Stoics perfected a daily ritual for this very purpose, a deliberate practice of evening review that served as the ultimate tool for moral and personal refinement. Seneca provides us with the most vivid account of this habit in his letters, describing how he would end every single day by putting his own soul on trial. He wrote, "The spirit must be called to account each day." This was the custom of Sextius, who at the day's end would question his own mind. What bad habit have you cured today? What fault have you resisted? In what way are you better? This was not an exercise in self-criticism, but in self-awareness, a methodical way to ensure that each day, no matter how ordinary, contributed to his growth. The structure is beautifully simple and devastatingly effective. You ask yourself just 3 questions as the day draws to a close. First, what did I do wrong today? This is not about flogging yourself for every misstep, but about identifying with calm precision the moments where your actions fell short of your principles. Did you lose your patience in a long line? Did you speak unkindly out of irritation? Did you avoid a responsibility out of fear? Acknowledging the fault is the first step toward correcting it tomorrow. The second question is, what did I do right? This is just as crucial. Did you act with courage in a small, unseen moment? Did you choose kindness when it was difficult? Did you complete a task with integrity? Celebrating these victories, however minor, reinforces the behaviors you want to cultivate, wiring your brain for future virtue. And the final, forward-looking question, what could I do better? This transforms reflection into a plan for action. It moves you from passive regret to active preparation for the next day's challenges. The entire process takes just 5 minutes, but its cumulative effect is a life lived with increasing intention and decreasing error. Your character is not shaped by grand, yearly resolutions, but by these nightly, gentle course corrections. So tonight, before you surrender to sleep, take 5 minutes to ask yourself these 3 simple questions. What did I do wrong? What did I do right? And what could I do better? In that quiet space of self-honesty, you are not just ending a day, you are building a wiser self for all the days to come. That relentless need for approval is a cage whose door you lock from the inside. We spend so much of our emotional energy riding the roller coaster of other people's opinions, soaring with their praise and crashing with their criticism, handing them the remote control to our inner state. The Stoics offered a radical key to this self-made prison, the cultivation of a profound indifference to both praise and blame. The former slave Epictetus, who knew a thing or two about being judged by his station rather than his character, gave a simple instruction. If anyone should tell you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses but answer, "He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone." This is not about arrogance, but about anchoring your self-worth so deeply within yourself that the shifting tides of public opinion cannot erode it. Consider the artist who paints not for the gallery owner's approval or the critic's glowing review, but for the sheer necessity of the creation itself. The act of mixing the colors, the stroke of the brush on the canvas, the satisfaction of bringing a vision to life, this is where their fulfillment lies. If the painting is celebrated, they feel a quiet gratitude, but their identity as an artist remains intact. If it is panned or ignored, they may feel disappointment, but not devastation, because their core purpose was fulfilled the moment the last brushstroke was laid down. The work was its own reward. Their worth was not contingent on the reaction it received. Now turn that lens inward, whose praise or criticism has an outsized effect on you. Is it your manager's opinion that can make or break your week? Is it the number of likes on a social media post that dictates your mood? The power you give to that external voice is power you have voluntarily surrendered. To reduce its influence, you must perform a simple but difficult audit of your own values. Ask yourself, is the thing I am being praised or blamed for something that aligns with my own principles? If you are praised for a dishonest shortcut that secured a deal, that praise is hollow and should be discarded. If you are criticized for acting with integrity when it was unpopular, that criticism is a badge of honor. The goal is not to become a stone, immune to all feedback, but to become a selective filter, letting in only that which aligns with the person you are striving to become. So whose opinion holds your peace of mind hostage, and what one action can you take today to reclaim it? Seneca cuts to the heart of our greatest self-deception with one unflinching observation. "It is not that we have a short time to live," he wrote, "but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long enough if you know how to use it, yet we act as if we have an endless supply of tomorrows, deferring our most meaningful work and deepest connections for a future date that may never arrive." This is not a morbid fixation on death, but a clarion call for purposeful life. Consider the simple, sobering math of your own finite hours. If you are fortunate to live to 80 years, you have just over 4,000 weeks. The average person will spend nearly a third of that time asleep, another decade at work, and countless more hours in waiting rooms, in traffic, or distracted by trivialities. The portion of life we truly live, as Seneca called it, is shockingly small. He argued that we are all frugal in guarding our personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, we are most wasteful of the one thing for which it is respectable to be greedy. This realization demands an audit of your attention. For 1 week, track how you spend your free time, those precious hours outside of work and essential duties. How many of them are poured into activities that leave you feeling enriched and aligned with your purpose, and how many are lost to the passive consumption of other people's dramas or the endless scroll of digital distraction? That hour spent watching a screen is an hour of your one and only life you will never get back. The shortness of life is the ultimate argument against procrastination. It is the reason you must stop waiting for the perfect conditions to begin that project, to mend that relationship, or to learn that skill. The perfect moment is a myth. The only time you ever have is this one fleeting present. What is one thing you are postponing that you could start today, remembering life is short? These principles are not abstract ideas, but a living system for resilience, clarity, and virtue. They form the curriculum you were never offered, the missing manual for navigating the inevitable storms of life. For years, you were taught to master the external world, but true power comes from taking absolute command of your inner world, your judgments, and your reactions. This is the freedom philosophy offers. Epictetus, who knew the depths of hardship, defined this freedom with perfect clarity. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This is the ultimate takeaway. You now hold the keys to that self-mastery. You do not need to adopt all of these principles at once. That would be overwhelming. The real transformation begins with a single, deliberate step. Choose just one, perhaps the dichotomy of control to release a specific worry, or the evening review to end your day with purpose. Practice it for the next week. Make it your own. If this journey into a more resilient and meaningful life has resonated with you, consider joining our growing community. Subscribe for more content where we continue to explore how ancient wisdom can be applied to the beautiful, complex challenge of modern living. Together, we are building a community dedicated to clarity and strength. Thank you for watching.